When you were a kid, one single summer felt like an entire era. You'd wake up, and there was just so much day in front of you. Now, you blink in January, and somehow it's already December, and you're sitting there like, where did the year go? Same year. The same 365 days it has always been. So why does it feel like someone hit fast forward on the clock the older you get? Now, most people would point at the obvious answer. I'm just busy, that's all. Makes sense, right? Except it's almost the exact opposite. The packed, chaotic years aren't the ones that vanish on you. The quiet, boring, nothing really happened years that just disappear. And the real reason isn't that you got busy. It's that your brain slowly, quietly, stops doing one specific thing as you age. Hi, I'm Nell. Let's look closer. So let's start with the oldest answer on the table, mostly because it's the kind that makes you stop and go, that's actually kinda neat. Yeah, at least until you poke at it. Goes back to 1877, when a French philosopher named Paul Janet wrote the idea down, and his thing was all about proportion. Think of your whole life as a cake. When you're 10 years old, 1 year is a fat, generous slice, 1/10 of everything you have ever lived. But by the time you hit 50, that exact same year is now 1/50th of the cake, a sliver so thin you could lose it between your fingers. The year didn't shrink. Your life just got bigger around it, so every new slice comes out skinnier than the last. Sounds cool, right? It's got math in it and everything. However, no. 13 years later, the legendary psychologist William James picks the idea up for his 1890 book, The Principles of Psychology, and goes, yeah, but it's not just the math. It was novelty. He said, when you're young, basically everything is happening for the first time, and those firsts get carved in deep. But firsts run out. One ordinary Tuesday melts into the next identical Tuesday until whole years, the way he put it, go hollow and just collapse in on themselves. And honestly, it's a beautiful theory. Neat, pretty, the kind of thing you nod along to. For almost 100 years, this was just the answer. But here's the problem. When you actually drag it into a lab, when researchers sit thousands of people down and ask them, at every age, how fast time feels, that tidy little fraction doesn't quite add up. People really do feel time speeding up, just not in the clean, mathematical way the cake slice promised. Something else is ticking underneath it, something you can put an actual number on. And that turns out to be the far more interesting story. So fast forward about a century. It's 1996, and a psychologist named Peter Mangan, over at a small college in Virginia, decides he's done just wondering about this. He's gonna measure it. And his method? Almost embarrassingly simple, honestly. He grabs 2 groups, one young, 25 adults, somewhere between 19 and 24, and one older, 15 adults between 60 and 80. And these older folks weren't frail or sickly or anything. They were sharp, active, busy with their lives, just older. Then he hands everyone the same little task. No clocks, no watches, nothing to sneak a peek at. Just close your eyes, count out 3 minutes in your head, and say stop when you think you've hit it. The young group nailed it. On average, they called it at 3 minutes and 3 seconds, basically right on the money. The older group stopped at 3 minutes and 40 seconds. Now, right about now, you're probably doing the math in your head and going, wait a second, if it only felt like 3 minutes to them, but 40 whole extra seconds had actually slipped by, then time was running faster than they could even feel it. And yeah, that's exactly it. Out in the real world, the clock had already moved on, but but the one ticking inside their heads was lagging behind, running too slow to keep up, and not a single one of them could feel it happening. This is the thing Janet's elegant little fraction, his pretty well-cut cake, could never hand us. A number. Cold, actual proof that the feeling is real, that you can measure it, that something inside an older brain genuinely keeps time differently than a younger one does. Which drops us right onto the question that actually matters. Why? Why would the clock in your head start running slow as you age? And that is where this quietly stops being a story about math and turns into a story about memory. So we follow that question over to a neuroscientist named David Eagleman, who's basically spent his whole career chasing this exact thing. And for him, it didn't start in a lab. It started when he was 8 years old, falling off a roof. The whole drop took less than a second, but Eagleman remembers it in slow motion, the edge of the house drifting past him, the ground rising up to meet him with this weird, patient calm. And you might actually know that feeling. That split second a glass slips out of your hand and you just watch it go frame by frame, completely unable to do anything about it. And if you've somehow never lived it, you've at least seen it play out in slow motion inside of a movie. Right? Yeah, that question just stuck in his head for years. In a moment like that, is time really slowing down? Or is your memory just playing it back that way afterwards? Eventually, he figured out a way to actually test it. And oh boy, he takes volunteers up a tower and drops them, backwards, 150 feet of pure free fall, into a net. And strapped to each wrist is this tiny screen flashing a number, too fast for a calm, normal eye to ever read. The logic was clean. If pure terror actually slows your perception down, then a falling, panicking brain should finally be quick enough to catch that number. Talk about sharing the fun with your test subjects, huh? And nope, nobody could read it. Plunging straight down at full speed, absolutely terrified, they saw the world at the exact same speed you're watching this video right now. And yet, every last one of them swore the fall had lasted way, way longer than the clock said it did. And if you're anything like me, the objection is already forming in your head. They didn't actually see it any slower, so why does it feel so stretched out looking back? And that's the twist. Nothing about time changed. The recording did. A brain that smells danger stops taking lazy shortcuts and starts saving everything in heavy, ultra-detailed footage, and that big fat file plays back later as one long, slow stretch. There's a name for it: memory density. Now flip the whole thing around. The size of a memory was never measuring time at all. It's measuring how much your brain actually bothered to keep. And the older you get, the less it bothers. So the years don't shrink on you. You're just holding on to fewer and fewer of them. So let's drag all of that back to your own life, because to a kid, almost nothing is routine yet. The very first time the ocean hits you, that cold, that salt, that little involuntary gasp when the wave smacks your chest, it gets carved in deep. Because your brain has literally no folder to file it under. It's never seen this before. A kid is basically doing the exact same thing Eagleman's freefallers did, except all day. Every single day. Everything is new, so everything gets saved. One summer fills up a whole notebook. Then, you grow up. And growing up is mostly just the slow, quiet work of things turning familiar. You've driven that same road to work so many times that you arrive and go, wait, did I even drive here? You don't remember a second of it. Your brain has seen this exact movie 1,000 times, so it just stops bothering to write it down. It runs the whole day on autopilot and keeps basically nothing. Kinda like a montage, honestly. Just one long fast-forward blur with no real moments in it. And this is the part the "I'm just busy" excuse gets completely backwards. It's so tempting to blame a missing year on being too busy. But think about it. The fullest years, the ones absolutely stuffed with new stuff, a new city, a new job, a first kid, those are the ones that feel enormous when you look back on them. They feel huge. The years that actually vanish on you are the smooth ones, the ones where nothing ever needed remembering. So the thief was never speed. It was familiarity the whole time. Time isn't speeding up as you get older. Not even a little. Your life is just quietly settling into routine, and a familiar life leaves almost nothing behind for you to look back on. Now, honestly, I could just stop right here. That's a clean answer, it's true, and it'd make a perfectly good little video. But the thing is, familiarity steals your time is really just the surface of this. Underneath it, there are like 3 or 4 other weird mechanisms, all stacking up at once. A frame rate, a chemical clock, a 10-year window that hijacks your whole memory. So, if you've got a few more minutes, stick around, because this is where it gets genuinely strange. Oh, and if you're finding this as oddly fascinating as I did digging it up, go ahead and subscribe. That's the whole pitch. Let's keep going. So, not everyone's convinced memory is the real culprit here. Some people think the problem isn't your memory at all. It's your hardware. In 2019, a Duke engineer named Adrian Bejan, a guy whose literal job is studying how stuff flows, drops a paper with the most refreshingly blunt title ever: Why the Days Seem Shorter as We Get Older. And his answer has nothing to do with what you remember. It's about how fast your brain refreshes. So picture your eyes as a camera. When you're young, that camera is shooting at an absolutely insane frame rate, grabbing a flood of fresh mental snapshots every single second. But as you age, the wiring in there gets longer, more tangled, kind of worn out. So the signals start crawling instead of sprinting, and the frame rate quietly drops. Fewer snapshots per second. And here's the strange part. Bejan argues we don't actually feel time by the clock at all. We feel it by how many of those mental images tick past us. A young brain is cramming a ridiculous number of frames into 1 hour, so that hour feels packed, dense, long. An older brain only grabs a handful, so the exact same hour just slides right by, half noticed, gone before you clocked it. Same 60 minutes. Same sunset, sitting right in front of 2 people. One brain shoots it in crisp, crystal clear 4K. The other one catches a few blurry, washed-out frames and calls it a day. The clock never once sped up on you. Your camera just slowed down. Okay, but something about all this should genuinely be bugging you by now. If new stuff makes time feel long, then a week absolutely packed with new things, like a holiday, should crawl by, right? It should feel like forever. And it doesn't. A good trip is gone in a blink. You're unpacking your bags going, wait, that's it? It's over already? So which is it? Does new stuff stretch time out, or does it speed it up? Because it can't be both. Except, it kinda is both. And this is where a British writer named Claudia Hammond comes in. In her 2012 book, Time Warped, she takes this exact knot, gives it a name, the holiday paradox, and then untangles the whole thing with one clean move. You're not running one clock. You've got 2 of them going at once. The first clock is the one ticking right now, in the moment. And when you're totally absorbed in something, snorkeling, getting lost in some new city, blissfully not doom scrolling your phone for once, that clock just flies. You look up, and somehow the entire afternoon evaporated. The second clock you read backwards, out of memory. And that one runs on the exact thing we've been circling this whole time. How much actually got recorded? A week, stuffed wall to wall with brand new everything, lays down this thick, heavy stack of memories. So looking back on it, it feels massive. Like you were gone for a whole month. So that one same trip really is both things at once. Fast while you're living it, long once it's behind you, and neither clock is lying to you. Two clocks, two completely different answers. And that sneaky little paradox? It's quietly running your entire life. The dull gray weeks crawl by on a Tuesday, then vanish without leaving a single trace. And the best weeks of your life blink past in a heartbeat, then live in you forever. Now, for the part that's literally physically ticking inside your skull right now. We've talked about memory thinning out. We've talked about frame rates dropping, but there's an actual, honest-to-God clock in there, and it runs on a chemical. Remember those older volunteers from way back? The ones who counted to 3 minutes and landed all the way out at 3:40? Something in their heads was ticking slow. And a psychologist at Duke, named Warren Meck, spent years hunting down what that something actually is, and his answer points straight at dopamine. So your brain keeps this little internal metronome going, a tiny pacemaker tapping out pulses to track how much time is sliding by. And dopamine sets the tempo. Load it up with plenty of dopamine, and the metronome speeds up, more taps per minute. Drain it down, and the whole thing slows to a crawl, fewer taps. And this is the part that actually matters. Your brain counts those taps to figure out how much time just passed. So when the metronome is racing, a single minute gets crammed with ticks and feels nice and full. But when it's dragging, that same minute gets barely any ticks, and your brain just kind of shrugs and goes, barely any time passed at all. And now the rough part. Dopamine slowly, quietly drains away as you get older. So that internal metronome of yours is gradually winding down, ticking slower, undercounting your minutes, letting real time slip right past you faster than you can possibly feel it. Which is exactly what happened to those counters with their eyes shut. But I should be straight with you here. This one's a model, not gospel. The dopamine clock is solid, but it's simplified, and your brain almost certainly keeps time in more than one spot at once. Still, it lines up unnervingly well, doesn't it? A room full of older folks, eyes closed, dead sure they'd hit 3 minutes, while 40 whole seconds quietly tiptoed past them. Okay, so here's a weird little experiment you can run on literally anyone. Go grab an older person, your grandparent, a parent, whoever, and ask them to just rattle off the most vivid memories of their entire life, the ones burned in the deepest, and watch what happens. They won't spread those memories out evenly across the decades. Not even close. This huge, lopsided chunk of them is going to come clustered in one shockingly narrow window, roughly from age 15 to 25. Think about that for a second. A 70-year-old has lived what? 7 full decades? But when their brain reaches back for the good stuff, keeps sprinting back to that same 10-year stretch from when they were young. Psychologists noticed this pattern showing up everywhere, across totally different countries and cultures. The same lopsided spike every single time. And they gave it a name. The reminiscence bump. And once you know about the spine of this whole video, the reason for it is almost obvious, isn't it? Look at what's actually crammed into those years. Your first real love, the first time you move out, and the silence of your own place hits you. Your first job, first heartbreak, first time you feel like an actual adult, faking it. It is a solid decade of non-stop, back-to-back firsts. It's the densest, most heavily recorded footage your brain will ever shoot in its entire life. So that's why, for the rest of your days, those years feel impossibly big, like they took up way more room than they had any right to. It's not nostalgia playing tricks on you. Not really. That slice of your life genuinely is the fattest file in the whole archive. Everything after it, All those smooth, familiar decades. They just can't compete with a brain that was recording everything for the very first time. So by now you might be feeling a little cheated, like time is just this thief that gets better at its job the older you get, and there's nothing you can do but watch the years blur past. But here's the thing. This whole video has secretly been handing you the antidote the entire time. You just maybe didn't notice it. Because if familiarity is the thing eating your years, then novelty is the thing that gives them back. And that's not some wishy-washy feel-good line. It's the literal mechanism. Every single study we walked through points at the same lever. The memory density, the frame rate, the firsts, they all run on new. So the trick isn't to somehow find more time. It's to give your brain more to record. And you've actually felt this already, you just filed it under the wrong name. Think about the last time a single weekend felt huge. It was probably a trip somewhere new, or a move, or some day that broke clean out of the usual loop. People always say travel slows time down, and now you know why. It's not the plane ticket. It's that you dropped your brain into a flood of brand new stuff and forced it to start recording in 4K again, after months of autopilot. So you don't actually beat the clock by living longer. Nobody gets to do that. You beat it by living wider. Take the different route home. Say yes to the thing that scares you a little. Learn the clumsy new skill where you're bad at it and everything feels awkward and fresh. It's not about cramming your calendar. A busy life and a full life are two completely different animals. It's about deliberately handing your brain things it has never seen before. Because the years you'll actually keep are the ones you bothered to make new. So, let's go all the way back to where we started. That one endless summer from when you were a kid. The one that felt like it stretched on for an entire lifetime. And the truth of it is kind of beautiful. Honestly, that summer was never actually longer than the ones you get now. It was the same handful of weeks, the same sun, the exact same number of days on the calendar. It only feels enormous looking back, because back then, every single day of it was something you'd never done before. It was all firsts. Your brain was recording every last second of it, in the richest detail it would ever manage. You weren't given more time that summer. You were just fully awake for it. And that's the part that sits with me, honestly. We spend so much of our lives quietly wishing we had more time. But maybe time was never really the thing we were short on. Maybe the years didn't get faster, we just slowly went on autopilot and stopped showing up for them. The clock on the wall doesn't care either way. It ticks the exact same speed it always has. The only real question is how much of it you're actually awake for. So this week, maybe just do one thing you've never done before. Let your brain catch a few frames it doesn't already have. That's it. That's the whole secret. I'm Nell. Thanks for looking closer with me. If this rewired how you think about your own years even a little, do me a small favor and tell me down in the comments what the last genuinely new thing you did was. I actually read them. And if you want to keep catching frames you don't already have, hit subscribe. And I'll see you next time with another simple little question that turns out to be so much bigger than it looks.